Hi, and thank you everybody for listening to this. My name is Marcy Dries. I am one of the infectious disease doctors at Christiana Care, and I just want to take this moment to really thank you for participating and helping me with this study. I know it's a really busy time of year, so I really appreciate the help. The rationale for the study is that, as hopefully everybody knows, that there's an ongoing outbreak of Ebola virus in West Africa, and with the opportunity for travelers to come, bringing Ebola with them to the U.S., which has happened in a couple of cases. The first case in Dallas did result in some transmission to healthcare workers. The second case in New York City did not. But in both of those situations, as I'm sure everyone's aware, there was a lot of hysteria and panic and concern among the U.S. public about the risk of Ebola here in the U.S. and that there would be an outbreak here in the U.S. And there have been several several surveys done that polled Americans, and they found really that people felt that they themselves were at significant personal risk from Ebola, or that they thought that Ebola was one of the major U.S. healthcare concerns right now. In the meanwhile, we're coming into flu season, and every year, tens of thousands of people get the flu, up to 30 to 50,000 people die from the flu, and yet fewer than half of people get their flu shot every year. So here's a disease that we know happens in the U.S., that we have prevention for, but people don't seem to have the same level of concern as they do about Ebola right now. So the purpose of the study is really just to kind of do a short survey among the general public to compare and contrast really their perceived risk of Ebola compared to their perceived risk of the flu. So what we're asking you to do is really just to approach people in the general public outside of a store, on Main Street, any sort of place where people would congregate, the train station, etc., and just approach them and ask them if they would be willing to complete the survey. Our aim is really to get as broad a sample of people as possible. So try to approach, people of different ages, different races, different genders. It's fine to include students like yourselves, but we don't want to just survey students. We will kind of want a broader population than that. Different education levels, et cetera. The main limitation in terms of demographic is going to be language, because obviously the survey is in English, so we'd have to exclude people who don't speak English. And really, you'll have to kind of come up with your own specific script in terms of how you approach people, but a good general approach is to say, introduce yourself, say that you're a student from whatever school, and that you have to do this research project on Ebola as part of your requirements, and can they help? I think if you phrase it that way, people will be most people will be willing to help. And you can also say up front that it should take less than 5 minutes. And I think that will help people as well. Once people agree, as you launch into the survey, there's a couple specific things that you need to say. One is that their participation is voluntary and completely anonymous, and also that they're able to not answer any question that makes them feel uncomfortable. And I'm not going to go through the survey itself. There are a few spots that we've had some suggested language in case people ask questions. So, for example, we're going to be asking about an Ebola vaccine. So there is no Ebola vaccine, but so it's really a theoretical question. So if they ask that, obviously you would clarify that. The survey itself is only 7 questions plus some demographic questions at the end. And as you go through, for example, the first question is, on a scale from a very high to 0, what would you think your risk of getting Ebola is? And the potential answers are very high risk, somewhat high risk, somewhat low risk, very low risk, and 0 risk. So rather than read out the entire question and all the answers, you can kind of leave it open-ended and see kind of how they answer. And then if you need to clarify by asking the specific answer so that you can put them into a category, that's fine. So you should stick with the language as far as the question itself goes, but you can kind of paraphrase and prompt them with the answers that are suggested there. So really there's 5 questions about an Ebola vaccine that's theoretical. And then there's 2 questions at the end about flu and the flu vaccine. And then at the end are, like I said, are the basic demographic questions. So their gender, their age, their race, ethnicity, their education level, and whether or not they work in the healthcare field at all, since that may bias their perceived risk, and we want to be able to adjust for that. You'll have a clipboard and you'll have the paper version of the survey. You can always kind of walk it through, show them the paper as you're filling it out, if that helps. If that helps them choose an answer. And especially for the demographic questions, they may just want to just say, rather than tell you exactly how old they are, they may just point to the category that's listed on the paper, and that's fine. So it's okay to show them the paper. Obviously, thank them when you're done, and send the completed results back to us. Like I said, we've kind of trialed this out a couple of times with a few different people. So we hope that the language is comfortable and understandable. But certainly if there are any particular questions that people are stumbling over, or you're finding it hard to get people to answer correct, or answer just because of language or for whatever reason, please let us know. And certainly if other questions are coming up, we can incorporate that into the survey in terms of how to help the other people that are administering it do so the same way. Our goal is to be fairly consistent across everybody who's doing the survey. My email address is M as in Marcy, DREES as in Sam, @christianacare.org. So as you're going through this, if stuff is coming up, you can certainly email me at the time or shortly afterward, and we'll try to get answers as quickly as possible. So again, thank you very much, and we look forward to having these surveys done, and I think the results will be really interesting. Thank you.